Welcome to Etv Bharat, sir.
Thank you.
Indian democracy has been thriving on free and fair elections, and the entire election process has been conducted by Election Commission. It forms the bedrock of the entire system. And now, in the light of present Supreme Court judgment regarding criminalization of politics, there is much that EC can do. So how is Election Commission gearing up to implement what directives Supreme Court has given?
Election Commission has set up a group of officers to revise the forms as per the directions of Honorable Supreme Court, so that we get all the information which has to be put in public domain, as well as implement other directions like publicizing thrice in print media, in electronic media, and all other instructions, because Commission takes it most seriously that as soon as a verdict from Honorable Supreme Court is received, we implement it immediately. And since 5 states are going to polls next.
So you're saying Telangana too with the other 4 states? Telangana would also go to polls with the other 4 states?
That I am not saying, but it is due for elections within next 6 months, whereas these 4 states have to complete elections before 15th of December. So all these elections are due in next few months, and we have to implement Honorable Supreme Court's direction even in these elections.
So, sir, the onus has been on political parties that they would give advertisements in newspapers, they would publicize. But this negative publicity, how practical it would be? I mean, expecting political parties and candidates to publicize negative things about themselves, their criminal background, and how would EC ensure that this is enforced, this directive?
EC will ensure that Honorable Supreme Court's directive is implemented in letter and spirit. The only issue which can come up is that the expenditure on this negative publicity is whether it is to be added to their ceiling on expenditure or not. Yes. That can be resolved taking into other factors in view.
So, the upcoming elections in 4 state assemblies, the state election commissions would play a role in that too. So there would be a meeting with state election commissions, and how you are thinking of implementing it?
Actually, state election commissions are different constitutional authorities responsible for elections to the local bodies, municipalities and panchayats. So they have no role to play in assembly elections. We have our chief electoral officer in every state who carries out the directions of Election Commission of India while conducting elections to the Assembly and Parliament.
So when can we expect announcement of the dates for these 4 assembly elections?
As soon as Election Commission is ready, we will invite you all and announce the dates in front of the media.
Approximately?
That we do not predict at all.
Okay, and what about Telangana? Team has gone to Telangana.
Yeah, our official team has visited. They have assessed the ground reality, what is the level of preparedness. They will make a presentation to the Commission, and then Commission will take a call.
So right now decision has not been taken regarding Telangana?
Not yet, not yet.
Yeah, but the possibility seems that it might go with these 4.
Possibilities are enormous actually, sky is the limit.
As we see technology emerging as a evolving every day, and we see that in electioneering as well, the role of social media is increasing, as we saw Cambridge Analytica, what it did in American elections, and these kinds of things are also happening in India. So there is a possibility that data can be stolen, there can be oppo research as happens in America, and all these things, all these trends are here too. So how is Election Commission gearing up to safeguard the system, entire system, from such kind of technological threats?
Election Commission immediately braced up to the challenge when all these revelations were made about elections in other countries, and the data harvesting, targeted communication, profiling and all those things. We immediately took steps to train all our manpower in cyber security, so that we are safe from that angle. Second thing, we also examine that not much of data from our voters has been taken even by Cambridge Analytica. We also had a group of officers investigating this. They interacted with the local heads as well as regional heads of Facebook, Twitter and other social media platforms, and they have cooperated with us in as much as they said that during elections nothing adverse will be allowed to be on their platform. They will be flagging the sponsors and the cost of advertisements on their platforms, and in last 48 hours before the conclusion of the poll, they will ensure that nothing relating to election is on their platform. So that way we will have very smooth sailing as far as social media and this risk of data harvesting, profiling, etc. is concerned. We tested this in recently held elections to Karnataka Assembly, and we found that we had absolutely no threat of that kind.
Recently, in the Supreme Court, central government has given an affidavit that 36% legislators in the country have criminal cases against them. So how big is this a threat for Indian democracy, and what more can EC do to check this?
Commission has always been for decriminalization of politics, and therefore even in the recent PIL in Honorable Supreme Court, Commission had submitted its affidavit to cleanse the politics of criminal elements. However, now the verdict is out, and Commission will implement that verdict in letter and in spirit, as I have already said.
What's your take on one nation, one poll? Is it feasible? Is it practical? What all constitutional amendments are required?
There is no issue of feasibility or practicability, because India has had simultaneous elections in 1952, 57, 62, 67. Only after 67 that many states went out of sync, and therefore separate elections were being held. So no issue of practicability or feasibility. However, now to bring all these legislatures to sync for elections, we will need certain amendments in the constitution to bring their tenures in line, and certain amendments in Representation of People Act. After these amendments are in place, then Commission will be mandated to conduct simultaneous election, and therefore at that point of time Commission will ask for logistic support, because we will need more machines, yes. We will need more CAPF companies, we will need more polling personnel and more resources. That taken care of, there won't be any issue in holding simultaneous elections.
But like if we talk about the time plan, in how many years do you see this happening, if it's feasible?
Once political executive makes up its mind and they have the numbers to carry out the amendments, I think it won't take much time to do it. Only thing is that there will be a need for political consensus to carry out those amendments.
But what happens, like situation in Jammu and Kashmir that we see right now, what happens in such situations when the state assembly is dissolved? We hold elections, and if such a scenario emerges, then what happens? Because
suggested amendments take care of all eventualities. In fact, Election Commission was asked in 2015, and we had given the options for all kinds of permutations and combinations. If in case no confidence motion is there, then it should be permitted only with a confidence motion, so that alternative government is in place. Suppose it doesn't succeed, then we can have two options, that for remaining period we can hold election, or for remaining period, if it is very short, we can have a consensus government like that. So there are options available for every situation.
Would it be cost effective? We'll have to also buy new EVMs, the number would increase too, but there won't be simultaneous like separate elections for states, and as we have it now. So would it be cost effective?
No empirical study has been conducted as yet to find out the cost effectiveness of this idea. However, subjective impressions can be that as far as EVMs are concerned, more money will be required, because more machines will be required, and the expenditure on EVMs will go up, because these machines will be used only thrice, their lifetime is 15 years, inventory carrying cost will increase. But on the other hand, the cost of deployment of central paramilitary force, polling personnel, vehicles and other things, that will come up as a saving, because we are deploying twice, for assembly separately and for parliament separately. But when both elections are held together, then it may be just around 120%. So there may be saving of 80% of that expenditure. So we will have to work out this in detail.
EVMs have been suspected of late. Some opposition parties have claimed like they are not about malfunctioning. So, if with a combination of VVPATs, would it put an end to this controversy?
Actually, Commission is committed to use VVPAT machine with EVM in all elections since 2017. And it has really infused a lot of faith and confidence among the common voter. However, certain political parties are still questioning this. Commission takes it as a responsibility to sort of address their fears and concerns and ensure that all stakeholders, all political parties, they are on board while we decide about the voting technology, and therefore we are making all efforts to bring them on board.
So, in these assembly elections, would we see VVPATs also at all the places?
Certainly, 100%.
Okay, that would certainly ensure confidence, because people would get a slip and they would know that whom they voted for.
No, they won't get a slip.
Okay.
This machine shows, as soon as you press the button in ballot unit, it shows the symbol, the name of the candidate for 7 seconds, so that you are assured that whomsoever you have voted, the vote has gone to that person. Then that slip gets cut and falls in the box below.
Okay, you don't get the slip, but it falls down in the box below, so, but you know that whom you voted for.
So, we have a hard copy record of all the voting.
Okay.
And at any point of time, we can count these slips to match the electronic count.
And what's C-Vigil application? That's something which has come up. And would it be there? Would it form the part of this election process in the states?
Yes, sure. This will be a big pilot for C-Vigil, because this is a mobile application for empowering the common voter. Anything wrong happening, any violation of Model Code of Conduct happening, if he has downloaded this application from our websites or from Google Play Store free of cost, they can, after announcement of poll, they can film, that is video or photograph of that event and submit. It will identify the constituency, the returning officer, the DO automatically, and it will land in their inbox. And Commission is committed to take action and inform the complainant within 100 minutes. This has been tried out first in Bangalore city during Karnataka election, and it was really well received there.
So, it requires public awareness as well, so that people report such incidents.
Yeah, that campaign is on.
Yeah. In the state assemblies that are going for polls, states that are going for polls, there have been some issues regarding bogus votes and electoral rolls. So, how is Election Commission taking steps to ensure that such bogus votes do not form the part of the entire process?
Actually, there are no bogus votes. What happens, that electoral roll is a fluid document. Every year, with reference to 1119 or 1118, whatever is the year, eligible voters, they have to enroll. So, they have to apply for enrollment. All others who are dead, shifted or absent, their names have to be deleted. So, the process goes on. What happens, that many people, they get enrolled in the new place where they get transferred, but old place they do not get their names deleted. So, this creates duplicates, and since we have digitized the electoral roll nationwide, and we have brought in all the electoral registration officers on one net, it is called ERO net nationwide. So, what happens, that we can use deduplication software to find out duplicates, apply different demographic entries of these duplicates, and trace whether these are different voters. If they are different, then they remain. If they are same, then our booth level officer goes from house to house and asks the voter, your name is in these 3 constituencies, where do you really want to have? And wherever he is living or she is living, that name remains, all other names are deleted, and it is a continuous process. Only thing is that some political parties get to know that so many thousands or so many lakhs are still there, they start complaining. But the process is on, and before elections everything will be up to the mark.
As the elections are approaching, ruling parties are taking out Chunav Yatras, even opposition is doing that. But they are also, opposition is also accusing that public money is used in these Yatras that ruling party is taking out. So, how is Election Commission taking up this matter?
Election Commission feels that it is for the lawmakers to make the laws to prevent these things. And fortunately for our country, every party has been in power sometime or the other. When they are in power, they are not doing any amendments to the law to prevent this. And that is where the problem is. Election Commission does not have jurisdiction without the law. Only from the day of announcement, Election Commission has the jurisdiction to act on such complaint.
So we require political will to deal with this.
Sure, that is important.
Electoral bonds they are an effective tool to bring transparency in party funding. Has Commission carried out any comprehensive study regarding this? How this whole system of electoral bonds is coming up in the country?
Actually, when finance bill was passed and electoral bonds became feasible for unleashing, Commission had expressed certain concerns to the government that this will reduce transparency, this will create shell companies, this will encourage companies who are loss making to contribute politically. All those concerns were flagged to the government, and government had advised the Commission that since the scheme is not yet prepared, the scheme is not yet implemented, therefore it is rather premature, and therefore Commission decided to wait. Now scheme has been notified on 2nd January 2018, 4 tranches of electoral bonds have been issued. Even the political parties' contribution reports, the last date is 30th September, which is just about 3 days away. So everything will be now on board, available to the Commission to make up its mind whether Commission's concerns have at all been addressed or have been addressed to some extent. Thereafter, Commission will make up its mind and again go back to the government with those concerns.
We started with EVMs around 2 decades back, but now again there is talk of this ballot paper going back to ballot. So all this, do you think it's a considerable option or a retrograde step?
Actually, ballot papers had many ills. The most important was booth capturing, use of muscle, and we had to resort to repolling and all kinds of things. Second was the number of votes getting invalidated, and a lot of accusation all over the world that Indian voters have not even learnt how to vote. So all those things have become things of the past after the advent of EVM, because in EVM you can't capture a booth and stuff the votes. It takes 20 seconds for one vote. So you will be caught, because you may have to stay for 5-6 hours if you want to stuff all the votes. So I think it will not be a healthy option to revert. However, since Election Commission is mandated to address all the concerns of all the stakeholders and make them happy, satisfied with the whole process of election, Commission will leave no stone unturned for that.
Nota has been an option for voters. Recently, RSS chief Mohan Bhagwat commented that Nota is helping the worst available candidate. Voters should give a decisive vote. So how do you see this?
Actually, Nota has been implemented on the orders of Honorable Supreme Court of India, and therefore it will not be proper for us to comment. As soon as any law is made for Nota, we will implement that.
How do you plan to check fake and paid news in coming elections?
That we have taken a number of steps, like with social media heads. We have already discussed and put in place some arrangement to check fake news, fact checking, all those things. Even for paid news, our system is there. However, we have one hurdle in that. There is the Honorable Delhi High Court's order for which we have gone in SLP, and we are requesting Honorable Supreme Court to stay for the time being application of that order. Only then we will be able to do something about paid news.
How viable is state funding of elections?
Actually, in the present scenario, state funding will not really cure anything, because people can continue spending a lot of money, bribing voters and doing other things, while a state fund will also go and it will be going down the drain. So it's not conducive in the present situation to go in for a state funding.
How has been your experience since you took over, and certain political parties have also accused EC of favoritism? So how do you deal with all this, and how has been your journey?
I can tell you that Election Commission since 90s has really earned a name for itself the world over. And wherever I have gone to attend international conference, I always found that every election management body world over is looking up to India, Election Commission of India, to learn, to find out as to how do we conduct such a mammoth exercise, deploying 11 million people, conducting general election to the Lok Sabha. So I personally feel that successive election commissions, election commissioners have contributed considerably in enhancing the reputation, the image of the Election Commission of India, and hopefully it will continue in future also.
Thank you very much, sir, and all the best to you.
Thank you.